Avoid these 10 commandments you've been led astray. Shocking spiritual truth revealed now. The flickering streetlights cast long, eerie shadows over the deserted alley, and a chill crawled up Max's spine like icy fingers. There was something wrong, something deeply unsettling in the air tonight. It was the kind of night that felt alive, like it was breathing, daring him to uncover the secrets buried within the whispers of the wind. He could almost hear them calling his name, a haunting echo that stirred a lump in his throat as visions of the unimaginable flashed before his eyes. 10 commandments he never knew, a voice rang out, startling Max as he turned to find the source, a ragged man dressed in tattered clothes, trembling as though he was made of glass ready to shatter. His wild eyes sparkled with mania. "You've been lied to. The truth will eat you alive." The man gestured desperately with a finger that seemed permanently etched with the dust of lost souls. Every passerby quickly avoided his gaze, uneasy murmurs drifting through the crowd like smoke. What truth? Max felt his own heart race, curiosity gnawed at him like a hungry beast. With each breath, the tension thickened. He watched the man's lips twist into a grin that danced with madness, and for a moment, he felt the world narrow to just the two of them. Break open the fabric of reality, Max. What you know is just smoke and mirrors. There was a fever pitch to his voice, rising like a wave prepared to crash. The shadows darted closer, and even the braver souls in the distance kept their distance, eyes wide with fear. Max stumbled backward, his mind racing through disbelief and intrigue. Who was this man? Was he truly mad, or was he the key to something greater? The air around him crackled with potent energy, thick with secrets ready to surface. It was intoxicating and dangerous. Was he ready to embrace the unknown, or would he hide beneath the safety of ignorance? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But as soon as the words slipped from his mouth, the man's expression turned grave, his body trembling now with a palpable urgency. Listen to me. You must avoid the path they laid out for you. There's knowledge that can rip open your world. But you're not ready. His voice cracked, desperation bubbling beneath the surface like a boiling pot. The intensity of Max's heart began to match the frantic cadence of the man's breaths, an electric pulse promising revelation and fear. As the man stepped closer, the shadows seemed to spiral around him, swirling with a life of their own. Find the lost commandments, never follow the rules they gave you. They're lies, traps. The darkness deepened, and for a fleeting moment, Max felt the pull of the abyss. What choices lay ahead? Could he dive deeper into the darkness to uncover what others dared not seek? He could feel the weight of anticipation hanging like a storm cloud, pressing down on him, and wondered, with sharpened breath, was he about to step into a world where everything he believed was about to shatter? Max's heart thundered in his chest as he stared into the wild eyes of the man, the weight of realization crashing over him like a tidal wave. The alley felt narrower, wrapping him in an oppressive embrace, while the shadows seemed to writhe in anticipation as they listened. What do you mean? Lost commandments, he asked, each word trembling on the brink of fear. The man leaned closer, his breath hot against Max's face. They hide the truth in plain sight. You think you're free? You don't even know the chains that bind you. His lips were curled in frantic fervor, the kind that made Max's skin crawl. Stop, a voice broke through the charged atmosphere. A woman approached, her brow furrowed in concern. Don't listen to him. He is dangerous. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of doubt that sparked Max's curiosity further. Is he? Max shot back, defensively. Or is he just trying to warn me? The weight of his choices felt monumental, fragile as a glass bird suspended in midair. That urgency pulling him twisted into something deeper, something undeniably human. Could he afford to ignore this man, and the implication echoing in his every word? The ragged man was undeterred. "You must wake up, Max. The 10 you know are shackles blinding you. It's the 10 you haven't learned that can set you free." Max felt the siren call of the dark unknown. Questions surged in his mind, crashing like waves on a shore. What were these lost truths? What would he have to risk to uncover them? The air felt thick with possibility, stifling and exhilarating. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the alley. They turned, startled. A pair of men in dark jackets emerged, their faces obscured by shadow. They moved with a purpose, eyes scanning, seeking something, or someone. Max's stomach dropped. Were they coming for him, or for the man he'd been listening to? "Go," the woman urged, pulling at Max's sleeve, her voice urgent yet trembling. The ragged man flashed her a wild grin that turned to a snarl. "She wants you to run back to your comfortable lies. Don't do it, Max. Choose the truth even if it costs you everything," he hollered before slipping deeper into the shadows, his voice fading like a whispered confession. Max stood frozen, the woman tugging harder at him, desperation evident in her eyes. The approaching figures cast their gaze toward him, and fear threatened to paralyze him. But what if they were the real danger? What if the truth the man spoke was genuine? "Max," the woman pleaded, "trust me. We have to go now." The men were close now, and he could see the glint of something in their hands, something sharp, glistening under the eerie streetlights. A primal instinct took over, igniting a spark within him. He pulled himself free from the woman's grip and turned to the darkness, where the madman had disappeared. "Where are you going?" she screamed, but he was already moving, heart racing, chasing the fading shadows and the whispers urging him onward. As he plunged into the darkness, the world behind him faded, but the questions remained, now burning brighter against the night. What lay ahead? What truths awaited him in the depths of the unknown? A voice echoed behind him, lingering like a ghost, "You must be prepared, Max. The moment has come." In that moment, the realization hit him like a punch. Had he just crossed a threshold that couldn't be uncrossed? As the shadows swallowed him whole, he understood that his life, as he knew it, was forever changed. What horrors or revelations were lurking just outside the light? The darkness enveloped Max, swallowing his anxiety, urging him forward. Each step felt heavier, yet electrifying. Adrenaline surged through him, fueling a reckless bravery. He had left the safety of the alley behind, abandoning the urgent voice of the woman who warned him. But now, without the chaos of his prior surroundings, he felt disoriented, adrift in a void where danger was as palpable as the thick air against his skin. That he stumbled upon a dingy street, the flickering of a dim lamp casting long shadows that danced devilishly against the cracked pavement. Heavy footsteps echoed in the distance, sending waves of dread over him. The men in dark jackets were still hunting, still seeking. Max pressed himself against a rusted dumpster, heart thrumming, an insistent drum echoing in his ears. What if the madman was right? He whispered to himself, the thought forming a bitter knot in his stomach. What if the truth he had known was a veneer, painstakingly laid over the dark reality? From the shadows where he hid, he strained to hear. The men were closer now, their voices a low growl. "He can't get far," one of them muttered, his voice like gravel beneath Max's skin. A stifled gasp escaped Max's lips. He knew he needed to move, to keep running. But toward what? The wild-eyed man's words haunted him. What were these lost commandments, and why were they worth risking everything? Cautiously, he edged away from the dumpster, continuing down the street. An alley split off to the right, shrouded in darkness, beckoning him. Taking a deep breath, he darted toward it. The size of the space narrowed again, darkness pressing in. Images of the wild man's eyes flashed in his mind. Are they really shackles? Max wondered, breathless. Or are they the only thing standing between me and madness? In the eerie quiet, his mind raced with the implications of his decision. What if he found himself ensnared by forces he didn't understand? Would he still cling to the safety of his ignorance? Suddenly, a loud crash resonated behind him. Panic swelled. He had to find somewhere safe. As he hurried deeper into the alley, shards of broken glass crunched beneath his sneakers. Echoes of distant sirens mixed with his heartbeat, creating a dizzying symphony of chaos. Then a glimmer caught his eye. A door, half open, light spilling from the cracks. What was behind it? Max paused, the lure of curiosity grappling with fear. Could it lead to answers? Or was it another trap? No turning back now, he muttered, pushing through the door with a hand slick from sweat. Inside was not what he expected. A dimly lit room, lined with bookshelves overflowing with dusty volumes. A flickering candle illuminated the significant text titles that made his pulse race. Lost Commandments, one read, the letters bold and imposing. Before he could grasp fully what he was witnessing, the door slammed shut behind him, plunging him into a suffocating silence. Instinct screamed at him to escape, but every earthen scent, every shadow felt alive with promise. Footsteps echoed again outside, heavy and unyielding. They were searching for him. But here, nestled in the bites of written words and whispered truths, did he stand a chance to find the revelation that could defy those chasing him? Max's heart leaped with both hope and dread. The answers were here, but at what cost? He reached for a tome, its spine cracked with age, ready to unearth the knowledge that could reshape his understanding of freedom. But as he opened it, a chilling voice slithered through the air behind him. You shouldn't have come here. A clock began to tick loudly in his ears, a countdown to whatever awaited him next. What had he awoken? What truths awaited him in the dark? The voice hung in the air, sharp and cold. Max felt a chill race down his spine. He turned slowly, his heart pounding hard enough he was sure the stranger could hear it. The flickering candlelight barely illuminated the figure behind him, shrouded in shadows, a face etched with the harsh lines of weariness and warning. Who are you? Max managed, his voice a hoarse whisper. Someone who knows, the figure replied, moving closer. The shadowed face revealed deep-set eyes that shot through the dark with piercing clarity. You've stirred something you don't understand. Those things, the lost commandments, they're not just words. They're a danger. Max's throat tightened. Danger? But this is what I need. There is something out there, chasing me. Those men, they want what's inside, the stranger cut in, his tone hardening. They think they can control it, use it. But they won't stop at anything to get it, including you. The word slithered into Max's mind, coiling around his thoughts. Control. He had seen enough dark corners of the world to know that there was always more to the story. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he stood on the edge of something monumental, something that could shoot him into a world where knowledge meant power if he could just grasp it. What's in the book? Max asked, his curiosity overriding the growing fear. Truth, the stranger replied, voice low and steady. Painful truth. Are you prepared to uncover it? Because once you do, the illusion of safety will shatter. Max felt that familiar knot tighten. He thought of the wild-eyed man, of the commands that ruled the world he had taken for granted. I don't know if I can. Then you won't survive. Those men are relentless. They won't stop until they have what they want. The stranger stepped closer, the candlelight casting strange shadows over his face. You have little choice left, Max. It's either them or knowledge. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside, making the ground vibrate beneath his feet. The door rattled violently. Max's heart raced, instinct screaming for him to escape, yet his body felt heavy, torn between the fear of the outsider and the fear of the unknown he might discover within the pages of that tome. Listen to me, the stranger urged. You must decide. Will you take hold of the truth, or will you let them engulf you in darkness? Max's mind raced. Those men outside were growing closer, their voices rising in a menacing murmur. He threw a desperate glance at the book, and something inside him cracked open. "Fine!" he shouted, determination rising amid his fear. "I'll take the truth. Just tell me what to do." The stranger nodded, a flicker of approval flashing across his face. "Turn to page 47 and read. But be ready, once you know, you can't unlearn it." Max snatched the book, hands trembling. He flipped open the cover and began to read, each word burrowing deeper into his psyche. The words blurred together under a wave of panic as the pounding on the door grew more frantic. Suddenly, a shrill laugh erupted outside, chilling him deeper than the darkness closing in. "You're too late, Max." The voice was twisted, filled with a malicious glee. "You think knowledge will save you? It only drags you deeper into the abyss." And at that moment, everything changed. The room seemed to tilt, shadows converging onto Max. Was it the truth he was reading or the swirling chaos outside that threatened to swallow him whole? "Stay focused," the stranger shouted, but the sound faded into a cacophony as Max's vision blurred, the weight of every decision crashing down. With one last breath, he gripped the book. There was no turning back now. But what awaited him in those uncharted depths? The door burst open, darkness spilling inside like a thief in the night, ready to claim what it desired. Would knowledge be enough to stand against it? The countdown continued, and the darkness closed in. The shadows surged, washing over Max like a tidal wave. The air thickened with a darkness that pressed hard against his chest. His heart thundered in his ears, drowning out the world around him. He had barely begun to fathom the weight of the knowledge he so desperately sought, and the menacing laughter echoed in his mind, slicing through his resolve. With trembling hands, he glanced down at the book again, the page barely visible through the swirling shadows. "Page 47," he muttered, forcing himself to focus. The unknown trembled with revealed secrets, but were those secrets worth the looming threat? The stranger's voice cut through the chaos. "Read, Max. Trust in the truth." Sucking in a sharp breath, he began to read. Words slipped off the page, coiling around his thoughts like smoke. "The commandments are keys. They unlock the truths of power, of creation, of destruction." Every syllable resonated with clarity, yet twisted the air further into suffocation. Then suddenly, images flashed before him, the faces of those men, sneering and hungry, clawing at the edges of his sanity. Panic surged anew. The door was down, and they were free to enter. He could feel their presence, dark and hungry. "No!" Max shouted, pushing back against the wave of dread. "I want to let you take it." He forced himself back to the words on the page, digging deeper. "But knowledge comes at a cost," it warned, descriptions of devastating loss intertwined with the promises of power. "You must be willing to sacrifice everything." "What does that mean?" he bellowed, emotion spilling over. The shadows lunged closer, their whispering voices swirling with malevolence. "You have no choice," they hissed, "sacrifice or be sacrificed." Panic gnawed at him, each thought echoing the fear of losing everything. His family. His life. The thrill of discovery turned to bitter dread. He was teetering on the edge, and as the book shuddered in his hands, it felt as if it would come alive. With a final push, he flipped to the conclusion of the commandment, a distorted truth that slashed at the bonds of his reality. To control the power within, one must first embrace loss. Only through surrender does true understanding arise. A blinding light erupted from the pages, sending shockwaves through the air. Max shielded his eyes, his heart pounding harder than ever before. The darkness writhed, longer, angrier, grasping for him. In the heart of that light, he saw fleeting images, grief-stricken faces, flickers of fire, and an unfathomable cosmos. His mind reeled, torn between wanting to step forward into the light and the terrifying thought that in doing so, he might lose part of himself forever. "Max!" The stranger's voice pierced through the haze, pulling him back. "You must choose now. The truth or the abyss. You cannot linger in the threshold. As comprehension dawned, the walls vibrated, the shadows clamoring for his attention. His pulse raced. I want the truth. He shouted, a mixture of hysteria and resolve pouring from his lips, but before he could say more, the forces of darkness surged, consuming the book in a cacophony of screams. The light dimmed, engulfed, and Max felt a pull, an unmistakable tug toward the void where the secrets would surely lie. Max. The stranger's voice became frantic, desperate. You need to overcome it. Do not let them win. And in that moment, everything teetered. Would he reach for the light or plunge into the depths of the unknown? A silence fell, thick and all-consuming. All that whispered was uncertainty, and for a moment, Max felt suspended. Would he choose knowledge, risking everything, or retreat, allowing the darkness to claim him? And just as he began to make his choice, a memory flickered, a name that ignited a spark of hope. The darkness seemed to hesitate. What did that name mean for him? Max held his breath, bracing for the decision that could reshape everything. But suddenly, the shadows lunged, racing toward him, hungry for the possibility of light. The choice was slipping away, and with it, so was the chance to grasp the fate he could forge. Would he dare to confront the darkness one last time? The pull of the void was like cold steel against his skin, relentless and unforgiving. Max felt the edges of his reality fraying, a delicate string about to snap as the darkness surged around him. He could barely breathe, but a spark ignited deep within, a whisper of defiance. Remember her, the voice urged, a shadow of familiarity coursing through his mind. His mother. Her face beamed with warmth, the laughter that echoed in the halls of his childhood. Tears stung his eyes, a raw reminder of what he stood to lose. Stop! He roared, his voice ricocheting against the walls. He couldn't face that void, not if it meant losing everything. The shadows recoiled, momentarily hesitant. The angry whispers dulled, and he seized that moment, scrambling to reclaim his focus. The truth, the commandments. He shouted, struggling against the oppressive darkness. You're nothing but lies. Just as he regained his footing, the light grew brighter, swirling around him like a tornado of luminescence. The book in his hand seemed to pulse with energy, vibrating with his heartbeat. Embrace loss, Max, embrace it, the stranger's voice cut through the chaos, calm and steady, urging him forward. But how could he embrace loss? What could he possibly sacrifice? The shadows coiled again, furious, and the silence smashed back like thunder. The scent of smoke filled the air, an acrid reminder of everything he'd ever feared. He was at war, caught between creation and destruction, between hope and despair. As the darkness cracked like ice, memories flooded him, vivid and heart-wrenching. A birthday party gone wrong, a shattered vase, his mother's disappointment. The pain of a broken home echoed louder than any scream. Each loss had stitched a thread into the fabric of who he was, and it wasn't just the memories, it was the regret, the fear of recurrence. Just let go. The stranger's voice urged. Max straightened his spine, defiance igniting like wildfire. No. He shouted, embracing the heat of his memories. Those pieces constructed him, yes, but they weren't all of him. The shadows howled, a collective wail of anger, but he was done listening. I will face you. He declared. You don't own me. In a single powerful motion, he thrust the book forward. The pages flared with a piercing light, forcing a gasp from his lips. The shadows froze, some flinching, others darting away. Max saw it then, the juxtaposition of light and dark, the possibility to convert fear into strength. Knowledge doesn't come without pain or sacrifice, he whispered, finding a calm in the hurricane around him. But I won't sacrifice who I am. The brilliance pulsated, engulfing him, while the darkness writhed and twisted, shrinking away from the illumination. For the first time, Max felt a sense of control. Then, the ground trembled, fissures cracking the floor beneath him. The light pushed upward, shooting into the darkness, scattering it like confetti. He felt the weight lift, and hope surged through him like adrenaline, but the shadows fought back, a powerful current pulling at his ankles. Just when he thought he had conquered it, the ground gave way, threatening to swallow him whole. A cacophony of voices erupted, clamoring for him, desperate pleas that reverberated through the air. "Max," they beckoned. "You can't escape." Terror gripped him, and as he dangled between realms, he caught one last glimpse of the book. Words shimmered off its surface, revealing one last commandment. Knowledge unearned is a curse, destined to trap the seeker, and with that haunting truth, he felt the ground begin to crawl back up. Would he be dragged into the abyss? Or could he forge a legacy of his own from the chaos? As the shadows seemed to prepare for one final assault, Max's heart raced wildly. This was the moment, one last choice before everything changed forever. Would it be the commandment that would claim him, or would he rewrite his fate? He could feel it, the pull of the abyss gnawed at his soul, tugging him into the very depths he fought against. Max clutched the book tighter, its metallic edges biting into his palm. Light and dark clashed in a violent dance around him, swirling like a storm that threatened to consume his flesh and spirit alike. "Let go." The voice was seductive, layered with tempting whispers that seemed designed to exploit his deepest insecurities. "You don't need to fight. Just let it swallow you whole." "Absolutely not," Max shouted back, fury igniting his words. He couldn't let them win. Not now. With every ounce of his strength, he shoved the book forward again, its light flaring. The dark shadows recoiled, their hisses like angry snakes. The fissures in the ground widened, as though eager to embrace him in their inky embrace. "You want to escape?" One dark entity sneered, its form shifting, nebulous and insidious. "You think the light will save you? Without loss, there is no gain. You'll fall and we will be waiting." Images of his life flickered through his mind. Happy moments buried beneath regret, a haunting slideshow that twisted the knife in his chest. Those moments were part of him, but they could also be his shackles. He squeezed his eyes shut. "I refuse to be defined by your lies." The shadows faltered, recoiling even further. For an instant, he felt as if the balance was tipping. But just as quickly, they surged forward, hungry and relentless, a relentless tide that threatened to drown him. "Choose, Max." The voice implored, now piercing, sharp like a knife. "Choose loss, choose fear, or lose yourself completely." He took a deep breath, the air thick like molasses, heavy and ripe with despair. His heart raced. Could he harness that fear instead? Allow it to fuel a different kind of flame? "I choose," Max gasped, "to remember." With that declaration, he opened his eyes wide and faced the shadows. "I remember my mother's smile, my friend's laughter. Every painful loss built a bridge towards my strength." He shouted, words vibrating with power. The book in his hand lit up like a supernova, illuminating the darkness around him. Those grotesque figures, once looming and ominous, now trembled. The air crackled, waves of energy radiated, dancing joyously against the wall of gloom. A heavy shadow lunged at him, its claws poised to tear through his resolve. Max instinctively raised the book as a shield, and golden light erupted from its pages, scattering the darkness like ashes on the wind. But even as the shadows began to dissipate, he felt something shift deep within him, an instinctive tug toward the familiar fear of loss. "What if you fail?" It whispered again, low and seductive. "What if you're wrong? What if I'm not?" He shot back, voice firm, mind racing. "I refuse to be a prisoner of my past. I will turn that fear into the fuel I need to fight." The shadows writhed, their anguished cries echoing like distant thunder. The bright energy engulfed him, moving with purpose toward the cracks in reality, reaching out desperately to stitch the fraying seams before him. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled violently, as fissures opened wider, threatening to swallow the shimmering light whole. A series of terrible cries erupted, echoes of those trapped within that seething dark. And then he saw it, a vision of faces, all lost to despair but each illuminated briefly by his light. A forgotten warmth, a glimmer of hope, their eyes cried out for rescue, but a brutal chaos reigned. Max knew he had to make a choice, to risk everything by demanding their freedom or let the shadows consume him. What will you sacrifice? The voice demanded, pressing in like thick smoke. What will you lose to save them? His heart thundered, panic surged, but in that moment, a fierce clarity blossomed. He was already willing to lose everything. Would that be enough? As the swirling chaos surged around him, he raised the book high, preparing for the ultimate confrontation. Could the bond forged in love be strong enough to shatter his fears, or would the void claim them all? Max took a breath, heart pounding, ready to face the abyss. What lay ahead, of victory or an even darker fate, remained a haunting question, one that would decide everything. The chaos erupted around him, dark shadows clawing at his resolve and pulling him to the edge of the abyss. As the fissures twisted ominously beneath his feet, Max felt the ground vibrating like the drum of his heartbeat. With the book held high, golden light burst forth, cutting through the darkness, but the shadows didn't retreat completely, only seethed, waiting for an opening. Dare you challenge me? The voice echoed again, sharp and mocking. The air around him thickened like a heavy fog, each breath feeling like a weight he had to lift. He gritted his teeth, pushing against the despair threatening to envelop him, his own fears surfacing like grotesque apparitions. Show me that you can save them, O brave one. It taunted, as the spectral figures of the lost shifted behind him, their faces a blur of longing mixed with sorrow. But at what cost, Max? Every light demands a shadow. He swallowed hard, his pulse racing as he recognized the truth underlying those words. The burden of saving others could lead to his own undoing. Would he fracture under the pressure? Was he strong enough to bear that weight? He remembered every painful memory, each one a testament to what he endured. Those sorrows, those sacrifices, they were his strength. Even if I fail, he murmured, I won't stop trying. With that conviction fueling him, he closed his eyes and envisioned the faces behind the shadows, drawing strength from the love he knew they had shared. I refuse to let fear win. With another determined thrust of the book, light surged forth more powerfully than before, illuminating the darkness and revealing the true horror within. What he saw was startling. The dark figures were not just demons, they were reflections, pieces of him, of his fears, of his past. Each scream echoing from the shadows was a fragment of his own anguish. What have you become? The entity hissed, drawing closer, almost curious. I am what I choose. Max shouted, defiant. I choose love. I choose loyalty. You can't erase what's etched in my heart. The shadows recoiled, their forms shifting anxiously, lost in their own impending defeat. Yet, the voice swelled, smoother now, like a siren tempting him with sweet promises. You think you can face this storm alone? You'll end up just like them, lost and forgotten. With every syllable, Max could feel the pressure mounting, but something within him shouted louder. I am not alone. I have fought my battles, I have scars to prove it. They might haunt me, but they won't dictate my future. The shadows writhed, the air thick with their distorted cries. A chilling silence pierced through as his proclamation rang true. In that moment, clarity washed over him. He was not just a vessel for light, he was a force against darkness. The rift in the ground lurched again, jagged edges reaching up hungrily. Max could sense a vortex of energy forming, teetering at the edge of chaos and salvation. He had to act. He lunged forward, wielding the book like a sword against the cacophony. His voice rose above the din. This ends now. But just as he stepped into the unknown, the shadows surged with renewed fury, and in a manic rush, a massive shadow lunged forward, aiming to consume him entirely. The book blazed wildly in his grip, but fear seeped in, an icy grip around his chest, whispering the last thoughts he hadn't confronted. Will you lose their souls or yours? Max hesitated, caught in the vortex. He had no idea what he would sacrifice, or if he could even hold on to his own being against the tide. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, an impending doom hovering at the edge of his resolve. And then everything shifted, leaving Max hanging in the balance. In that moment, what would he choose? What lay hidden beneath the sprawling darkness, waiting to be uncovered? The shadows closed in, a swirling mass of despair and confusion. In the eye of this storm, Max floated, suspended between light and darkness, his mind racing with the weight of every decision he'd ever made. The air crackled with a fierce energy, shadows reaching for him like desperate hands trying to pull him back into a past he feared facing. Choose. The voice thundered, echoing through the void. Will it be pain or liberation? Max clenched the book tighter, its surface warm beneath his grip. The golden light emanating from it flickered, reflecting the turmoil raging within him. In that moment, the shadows shifted, revealing faces he recognized. Friends. Family. People he loved, and lost. Their cries pierced him, each one like a dagger twisting in his heart. Help us. They begged. Don't abandon us. Every fragment of anguish they embodied coiled tighter around his spirit, but amidst that pain, a far deeper pain broke through the fear of failing them again. What if he wasn't strong enough? What if this was his moment to fall, consumed by the very darkness he sought to defeat? Stop! He yelled, his voice shaking the darkness. I will not be your sacrifice. I will not be anyone else's ghost. The shadows shuddered, shrinking back for the briefest moment. But then, they surged again, angered and relentless. Then face extinction. The voice hissed, mocking his defiance. You say you are not alone, but look around you. How many have you truly saved? The words stung, like icy water thrown in his face. Memories flooded back every time he had stayed silent when he should have spoken, every chance he had passed up. The faces blurred together in a jumbled mess of guilt and regret. No, Max breathed out, the grip on the book slipping as doubt gnawed at him. I can't, but just then, an unexpected spark ignited within him, riding on the fumes of those memories. Among the echoes of their cries, he felt something shift, a pulse of warmth, stronger than despair. It grew steadier, grounding him in a way he hadn't known he needed. The faces of those he loved flashed before him, not just as specters of the lost, but as living memories of hope and courage. Enough! Max shouted, brandishing the book as if it were a shield. I want to be defined by the pain I carry. I will use it. With a surge of power, he thrust the book forward, channeling every ounce of energy into the golden light. It exploded outward, illuminating the entire void, pushing back the shadows that lurked hungrily. The cries morphed, no longer desperate, but echoing with a newfound strength. For a breathless moment, Max felt victory blossom in his chest. The shadows paused, their furious screams transforming into whimpers. But as quickly as it came, doubt threatened to creep back in. Remember, Max, the voice, now quieter, seeped through the fading darkness. Every light casts a shadow. The shadows, while retreating, were still there. Angled and crouching, they waited, plotting. He could feel their presence, whispering doubts, weaving fears. A violent shudder shot through the ground as the rift widened, pulling at him again. What more must I sacrifice? Max questioned into the approaching darkness. The shadows responded with a cacophony of laughter, hollow, echoing laughter that sent chills racing through him, and then he understood. To save them, he might have to face the parts of himself he feared most. The very essence of his identity threatened to fracture under this weight. As the shadows coiled closer, Max locked eyes with the abyss. Was this the moment he must plunge into his own fears to truly become the light? Or would he let darkness consume everything he held dear? What will you choose? He thought, heart pounding, standing resolute on the edge of the void. In the height of chaos, a revelation sparked within Max, igniting the fire of determination. He wasn't just standing at the precipice of the abyss, he was facing his own shadows. As the swirling darkness lunged toward him, he knew what he had to do. Enough chasing ghosts. He roared, forcing the words out as though they were a lifeline. I will not hide. I will embrace the truth. The shadows twisted and writhed, recoiling from the sheer intensity of his declaration. It felt liberating, like opening a suffocating cage to let the light in. He gripped the book tighter, its energy pulsing through him like a heartbeat, steady, resolute. With every ounce of courage he had, Max took a step forward, drawing all power from the warmth of the memories that shaped him. He envisioned his mother's laughter, friends' unwavering support, moments of joy, and even the pain of loss. Every experience stitched together the tapestry of who he was. "You are not my master," he shouted at the mass of shadows, each echoing threat now ignited as a source of strength. "I define my path." The shadows recoiled into a swirling mass, their angry whispers faltering under the strength of his conviction. As he took another step forward, a brilliant light erupted from the book, illuminating the chamber. The very essence of fear lost its grip on him, and the faces of those he cherished stared back, glimmers of hope shining through the raging darkness. "Max!" A voice echoed, sounding familiar yet distant. It was his mother's, guiding him back to the surface, reminding him of love and courage. "You are never alone." "Never alone," he repeated, every syllable resonating with truth. The shadows shifted backward, stifled by the warmth of what he had claimed within himself. He felt the pull of the void lessening, the chains binding him to despair unraveling as light surged deeper. He lunged forward and opened the book to a page that shimmered with golden symbols. "With knowledge comes clarity. With sacrifice comes strength," he yelled, sense of purpose surging through him. The words flooded out, cascading around him like a storm of brilliance. The figures of the lost materialized before him, reflecting sorrow but now twinkling with an unmistakable glint of hope. They were not just memories of despair, they were opportunities for growth. "I release you. I give you my strength," he screamed, thrusting the book forward as a beacon of solidarity. With that, the light expanded, shattering the dark tendrils. Silence enveloped him for the first time. The cacophony of despair faded, replaced by whispers of laughter amidst the light. The ground trembled as if recognizing this newfound power, fissures closing as shadows faded. Max opened his eyes to a quiet just beyond the light and felt lighter. The weight of burdens he had carried for so long slipped away like grains of sand. The figures before him, no longer tormented, hummed with relief and gratitude. They took a step toward the light, arms raised in unity, ready to break through the darkness together. "You have triumphed," the stranger from the hidden room said, appearing behind Max with a proud smile. The flickering candle next to him illuminated a warmth that felt enveloping. "You are free." Max stared into the eyes of those he had saved, his voice steady as he addressed the crowd now gathered around him. "We are all reflections of our past," he said, heart pounding but steady, "but that doesn't define who we can become together. We find strength in unity and love, never in isolation." As they stepped into the light, the shadows surrounding them dissipated completely, lifting the veil of fear that had clung to him for so long. With a sigh, Max turned back to face the remnants of the darkness, now flickering weakly like fading embers. In that moment, he felt complete. Max turned to the stranger, gratitude washing over him. "What now? Is there more to do?" The stranger shook his head gently. "Your journey isn't over, but you've found your way through. Carry this truth into the world. It's yours to shape now. Remember, knowledge is a flame, pass it on. Grow it, but never withhold it from those who seek." As Max stepped forward with newfound courage beside those he loved and lost, he knew his journey was only just beginning. Each step felt solid, grounded. He would share his truth, ignite the spark in others, helping them find what he had uncovered. Max felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off his shoulders. He was ready to face whatever came next, determined to pave the path of healing not just for himself, but for everyone. And as they all walked into the light together, a resonating call echoed through the space, urging Max forward into freedom, hope, and the promise of a new beginning. Now's the time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to catch every intense story like this. Don't risk missing out. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm flames and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Max's journey and what it means. And if you see something powerful here, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who deserve this kind of inspiration. Let us ignite a fire together.